What's up, guys? We are back. Fitness Profit Multiplier back here today. Today it's Anthony and Jimmy, and we're going to be discussing how to properly work your leads. Again, I see this time and time again with gym owners. The leads come in, they give them one phone call, and that's the end of that. And we kind of touched upon this in one of the last podcasts that we did, and Jimmy had mentioned that him and his team actually do 6 reach outs to those people. So I wanted to outline that for you guys today. So this way you guys can properly work your leads and get the most out of your marketing. But Big Jimmy, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
Doing good. I'm glad to share some golden nuggets with these gym owners in regards to their lead follow-up sequence, which is really what we're talking about.
Yeah. So rolling right into us, the first thing that you have to remember, guys, is speed to lead. That is the most important thing. If you get a lead into your system and whatever system you're using, if you get a lead in and you don't call that person, text that person within the first couple of minutes, that lead is going to start to get cold. And think about it from a client's point of view and even from yourself. How many times have you saw something online and you got really excited about it in the moment and you opted in for something and then you don't hear anything until a day later, 2 days later, you're like, oh, I forgot I even did that. And then you kind of ignore it. It's not important anymore. So that's why you have to get to them right away. So if the one thing you take away from this podcast is to just hit that lead right away as soon as you can, that is the best piece of advice you're going to get here. And you're going to find a lot more success just with that alone.
100%. That's really the first step to anything, right? I mean, to parrot Anthony, how many times have you called a business and you get their voicemail and nobody ever calls you back, right? Or how many times do you have something that you need to get solved? Like recently at our facility, we had a specific issue that we needed to get solved. And I was just calling every company down the line until somebody picked up the phone or called me back, right? And so many of these companies never called me back. And that's half of winning in business is calling back your leads. If they call you, right, as soon as possible. Speed to lead, really what that means in real numbers, guys, is you increase your close rate potential of that client by 9,000% if you get in contact with them within the first 5 minutes. And
you know, when I hear huge numbers like that, it reminds me of the Muscle Tech ads way back in the day.
Oh yeah,
remember those?
Yeah,
they were like, take this Cell Tech and you're gonna grow, 10,000%. That's what it reminds me of.
It always reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z, and they're like his power level's over 9,000 or something. So your power level, guys, is over 9,000. Your power level's over 9,000 if you call them within the first 5 minutes of them submitting a form. And this is real data, guys. This isn't, I'm not just blowing smoke and making up numbers here. 9,000% more likely to connect with the lead if you call them within the first 5 minutes of them filling out a form. Very important.
Yeah, I mean, and that just kind of says it right there. And you mentioned it before. How many times have you called, like you said, you had an issue at the gym and you're going through the line and calling people back? I mean, I've had that issue with like landscapers and just other plumbers or people that wanted to do work. And it's like, these guys don't call you back. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? You don't want to make money?
You don't want to work? And then the company that wins and gets our business is the company that actually makes the effort to get on the phone, call us back, have a good experience with their front desk person or their receptionist or whatever. Those are the companies that I end up working with and continue to work with, the responsive companies. Because if you're not responsive and you're thinking, oh, well, I have better things to do, or I got to, build this blog or optimize my website or whatever it may be, or you have this other task you have to do. There is no task in your business more important than client acquisition, period, right?
Yep.
That is the most important task you have as the operator and owner. Most of the time, that's your role in the beginning and for quite some time until you get that staff in place. So no other task is more important than that. Okay. I understand if you're training sessions still and you're in a session and you got to whatever, right? Because you're servicing that client, because that's the next most important thing, like servicing that client, right? It's service and it's lead acquisition. So you want to do everything that you can to be the most successful possible. And that first starts with speed to lead, speed to lead, speed to lead, burn that in your brain. The faster you can get there, the better it's going to be. So when we look at that, we can move on to what the cadence looks like moving forward, right? How many times are you following up with this person? What medium are you using to follow up with them? Are you using text messages, emails, calls, voicemail drops, right? Video. What are you using to follow up with your clients? Really take a deep dive at what that looks like. Because if there's not an intense 2-week time period where you're hammering that person to get them into the gym, you're doing it wrong right now, because you need at least 2 weeks of hammering that person almost every day, really, for that 2-week period of time. And then it can trail off and be a little bit less frequent. And you can automate all of this except for the phone calls, the actual dialing. You need somebody in your company dialing, but you can automate all the text messages, the emails. You can automate the voicemail that we use to help gym owners, right? We can do a lot of those things for you, but at the bare minimum, you got to be calling them. And the magic number, 6 calls in the first 8 to 10 days. 6 calls in the first 8 to 10 days. You can take weekends off. You know, a lot of people aren't answering their phone on a Sunday, right? If you have a sales associate in your facility on a Saturday morning, call them, do dialing. And one of the things I want to bring up to you guys is you want to set up an hour a day just consistently where all you're doing is following up on the phone. 1 hour a day, maybe even 2, where all you're doing is following up on the phone. Set it in your calendar. It's an appointment with your phone and these new leads that you never miss. Okay.
Yep. Well, you know, it's funny because I want to go back quickly to the beginning. So, you know, when we're saying within 5 minutes, and what if somebody is actually training? You can set this up and have automations that kind of send this out. So typically our first interaction with somebody is always going to be a text message. They opt in, they get a text message within 3 minutes of them opting in. So this way we hit them right away. Then you can kind of follow up with that lead when you need to, but as long as you're hitting them initially, and then from there, like we ask in the initial text, like, hey, thanks for opting in. Well, I forget what it exactly says, but like, you know, hey, thanks for your interest in AB Fitness. When's a good time for you to hop on the phone with us so we could schedule time to talk, something like that. So you want to just basically set that cadence. So if you're really, really busy, automation is your friend because it'll do that for you. And then from there, you still want to call them anyway. So if you don't hear back from them from their text, then you need to be able to give them a call right away.
Exactly. And we actually set it up so we have a call scheduler link in our follow-up sequence where they can actually schedule themselves into a phone call, and you can set it up so it's available in your open times where, you know, the software can read your calendar and go back and see where you don't have sessions, so they can actually book themselves into a phone call, right? And that we found that works pretty well. But even if they book a call with you, if they don't book that call within the 24-hour time period of them submitting their form through the scheduler, call them anyway. And if they answer and they go, oh, how do I call schedule, you're just confirming the phone call. That's all you're doing at that point, right? But you have to connect with that lead early on. And we've had initial text message set up from long time ago, right? You have to have that within a minute or almost immediately. They fill out the form, they get a text message. No matter if they're coming from your website, coming from digital, anywhere that they come from, a mailer, whatever you guys have that you're acquiring clients through, immediately, as soon as possible, they need a text message and an email confirmation, because they need to know what's going on in the process. They can't just submit the form and get nothing. They need to know that it was actually submitted, because they are raising their hand for help. If they don't have a confirmation that it's actually been submitted, then you're losing a big portion of making that client already start to know, like, and trust you, because that's what this system is about. You're starting the communication because you communicate with your clients through text message, through email, and through phone call, and in the gym when they're members. So why not start them on that cadence right away and get in contact with them? Because we're belly to belly business. The sooner you can get your voice in their head and have a conversation, the sooner you can change their lives, and the sooner you can get them convinced that what they need is your service, because they don't know yet. They haven't made that decision yet. So you have to nurture them along to make that proper decision for themselves.
And I'm guilty of this too, what I'm about to say. So many times as fitness owners, we try to make our business not belly to belly. We try to have it all, you push everything to electronics. Just text them, let them book their own appointments. But you guys got to remember, we are belly to belly. These people are going to actually come into our facility. They're going to come in, you're going to see them, you're going to shake their hand, you're going to see them sweat, you're going to see them transform their body. So you have to remember that. So that's why picking up the phone is so powerful. And we try to almost hide behind automation to do those things, but because it's scary for a lot of people to pick up the phone and dial. I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to bother them. What if they're at dinner? And we'll talk about times and stuff because I want to cover that too. But it's so important. And you know how many times I've gotten a client who said, I reached out to a whole bunch of gyms and you were the first person to answer me and you were the only one to answer me. And I get so mind blown by that because it's like all those other people, I mean, I'm happy because I won the client, but so many other people, you missed all that opportunity to get a potential client. So that's like the first step in all of this, is that speed to lead right away, getting in touch with them and trying to get them on the phone immediately. Again, because like we said, they're hot in the moment. Maybe they saw your ad on Facebook and they're like, this looks really interesting. I want to see what this is about. And then boom, you're texting them right away. Now they're still hot. You're getting them in. And now they're like, okay, yeah, I'll hop on the phone with you. I'll talk to you. So, but what if they don't actually pick up? What's the cadence that we need to be in, from that point? So again, me and Jimmy probably do similar things. Jimmy had what he said last time. A lot of people were asking us questions about that. So we'll let Jimmy kind of take what he does, and then I'll tell you what I do after that. So Jimmy, what's like the next thing for you? So somebody opts in, say they opt in the morning. What happens after that? And they don't answer.
Right. So what happens is we have our automation system set up to follow some rules in relation to, did we connect on the phone? If we connected on the phone, it totally changes everything. They get a totally different follow-up sequence. If they scheduled an appointment with us, they totally get a different follow-up sequence, right? So these things are pre-built and they happen automatically, right? So that's where the automation comes in and helps you. But like Anthony said, don't hide behind the automation, right? There's guys in the industry that will tout this deal of, fully automated self-scheduling consultations. That doesn't work.
It doesn't. I was just going to say that it doesn't work. It's all BS.
It doesn't work, right? You have to get, as soon as possible, you have to get in contact with that person because that's what they want. It's a personal relationship, right? But if we're to go through our cadence of how we're going to follow up with a lead and what that looks like from automation and manual actions, we start from day one, right? So day one, they submit a form. They get a confirmation email, a confirmation text, right? That text has a scheduler link in it, as well as prompting them to respond to the text message as well, okay? Because if we can get them to respond to a text message, we can actually have a conversation starting on text, right? Email's not as easy, right? So text is the easiest way besides phone call, right? So we call them, they don't pick up, right? So it's call, text, email, day one, call 2, right? So they're getting 4 follow-ups on day 1, okay? That's within 24 hours of them submitting the form. And we can set those up in such a way where it's within a certain time period of the day. So it doesn't happen. They don't get a text message they will get a text message if they fill out the form at 1 a.m. They'll still get a text message, right? But they're not going to get a phone
I shut
call.
that off. You leave that on?
I leave that on. If they submit a form at 1 a.m., they're still going to get a confirmation text and a confirmation email.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So I had, and this is why automation is really good. It does a lot of good things, but it could also be very, very bad. So in the software that we have, when we first got it, initially working through it to build all these automations, I set up an automation to go out And I remember calling Jimmy. It was like 11 o'clock my time. And Jimmy lives in Seattle. I live in New York. So totally different separate times.
Yeah.
So it's like 11 o'clock my time. I'm like, dude, I sent out an automation right now on accident to a whole bunch of people. How do I turn this off? And that's the scary part with automation, is that sometimes those things happen and you're pissing people off. I'm calling people at 11:30 at night, like, oh my God, what goes on? But go ahead, continue.
But in my opinion, you're not going to piss them off if they just filled out the form, right? Because they expect a confirmation, right? Now, if you're sending out a blast text that says join our fat loss challenge at 11 p.m., that's probably not the best thing to do. But but
that's what I did.
Yeah, that's what Anthony did. Is we figured it out. But so sometimes that stuff will happen. You just got to roll with it as business guys. So that's our cadence. 4 follow-ups on day 1: email, text, 2 phone calls. Right? Day 2, they're going to get another text message and a phone call. Okay. Day 3, they're going to get an email and a phone call. Day 4, they're going to get a voicemail drop. Okay. That's a pre-recorded voicemail that I recorded that just reminds them we have a program coming up. The spots are filling up. We want to make sure we get in contact with them. Right. Okay. So that's just a voicemail drop on that day. Then the following day, we do another text message and a phone call. Okay. Then the next day, we just do a phone call. Okay. Then, depending on if it's the weekend or whatever, then, it'll change the automation a little bit in terms of not the automation, but it'll change our call rate because we don't typically call on Saturday or Sunday. Okay. Sometimes we call on Saturday here and there. If I have a lot of leads coming through, then I'll have my sales team call on a Saturday, but we don't call on Sundays. Okay. Then we have more text messages and emails that go out on this cadence of kind of an every other day cadence through different mediums. So text, day off, email, day off, text, day off, email, day off. And as we go through that process, and this is about a 10-day process, 14-day process. Okay. As we go through that process, my sales team is trained to call twice on the first day and every single day for another 6 days, 5 or 6 days, right? If the lead doesn't pick up. Okay, that's happening manually. Automation wise, text, email day 1, text day 2, nothing day 3, right? So it's like, and it'll start to go every other day at that point. But the first 3 days or so, you want to be hitting them multiple times a day, every day. Okay. And then once they kind of fall off, then they go into what's called our not yet ready campaign, which is testimonials, emails in regards to specific things they can do to help their fitness, value in advance, right? At that point, because they're not ready to get on the phone with you. So you have to nurture them differently. And then they're in your system and they can receive your seasonal promotions, all that kind of stuff. But at some point, these leads are ready or they're not, and they might not be ready until you hammer them 6 times, right? So that's generally what it is. We can go into more specifics on, like, we could lay out, and in our coaching, we'll lay out the specifics and walk you through the specifics of each individual step, how you set it up, the whole deal. But we just want to give you guys a framework of what that looks like. So for the first 3 or 4 days, every day, multiple times a day. After 3 or 4 days, you're going to go every other day, even though you're still making that call attempt every day in terms of the automations, right? Generally, that's how we do it. And it tends to work out pretty well, right? From Facebook, we get about a 60% book rate. Okay. And if you're talking about, website, or we're talking about referrals, those are going to book way quicker, right? I mean, if that's the only way you're driving business right now, great for you because you have a great conversion rate, but you don't have a lot of volume. So it's just one of those things where we have to know that you're not going to expect to get the same book rate from a digital advertising source than you are from a referral or a website lead. It's the intent of the lead is different, right? So you have to have this follow-up sequence plugged in for digital, but it helps for the other lead sources as well because it gets you to them quicker, right?
Yeah, you per website, like Jimmy said, referrals, all those types of things. It's definitely a little bit of a different follow-up sequence. It doesn't, remember those leads, website leads, even like people who maybe follow you on social media, who know who you are, referrals, they're warmer leads. somebody on Facebook or somebody that maybe picks up one of your mailers, those people are cold. They don't know anything about you. They have no, what is this? I'll see what it is. That's basically what they're doing. So it's your job to take them from cold to warm to hot to a client. That's what you have to do. And doing this kind of sequence, and Jimmy does it very, very similar to what we do, almost to the T, exactly what we do. We send out a lot more texts though. We send out 2 texts a day, one in the morning and one at night, depending on when the person comes in. But that's basically the difference between them. We send a lot of texts, but you have to be able to nurture those people and move them from cold, warm, and go through that process with them. And these people, like we said, 60% that he's getting on Facebook is phenomenal. That's great. And that's why his business has really escalated. But these are the things that we'll teach you, like you said, in our coaching program, and go through the exact, what do you say exactly? But I want to kind of go back. So now you mentioned that 1 to 2 hours, one of your pieces of advice was you should take 1 to 2 hours a day, every day, for all these gym owners out there to call these people, to pick up the phone, dial, pick up the phone, dial. What are we saying? After a while, it's like, because now I know what's happening. A gym owner is listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I got to call people?
Yeah.
Holy crap. They're busy, the people. Maybe they're at dinner. What time do I call? So let's just say a typical gym owner who's actually doing those sessions, when's a good time for them to actually take those 1 or 2 hours a day to call? And then what are we saying? But let's start with when. Like, what time of day should I be making these calls? Because obviously you can't make them at 9 o'clock at night. That's not going to work. Right. You can't make them at 7 in the morning. So when's a good time have you found to actually make those calls?
Now, here's the rub, guys. The most ideal time to call is probably the most ideal time to train people, right? So here's the rub. This is why you need to build a quality staff that can handle sessions for you, because you can't have the same person handling peak hour sessions that's handling calls, right? Now, there is one time in the day where you typically don't have a lot of sessions in the gym. That's also a good time to call, okay? So when we're talking call times, when are all your clients coming in for consults? 4, 5, and 6 p.m., right? Typically, because that's peak times in your facility. That's when people are thinking about fitness. That's when people are going to come in for their workouts, right? You may have people that are retired and things like that that come in at your 9 and 9:45, whatever. Those sessions are really busy for us as well. But best call times are going to be 4 p.m. is number 1. That's the best call time of the day, period, right? The other good call time is like right around 11 a.m., noon, right? Lunchtime. People are getting done with the first half of their workday. They're like, okay, it's lunch break time, whatever. You can catch them while they're not working, right? So a lot of times you may call somebody in the middle of the day when you have availability, right? Maybe between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock is typically when gyms aren't too busy. They're in the middle of their workday. They're not going to pick up. It's very rare, right? So what we have set up at our facility is typically our call hour is 11 a.m., maybe noonish, around that time. And then our next call hour is like 4, right? Because I have a sales associate that's going to be responsible for that and is not responsible for training people at those times, right? Now, if you have a consult that's coming in at 4 p.m., obviously that consult is more important. But if you grow your team big enough, you can have a consult and you can have somebody else calling and somebody else training people, right? But they have these different tasks. It's not like all your trainers are there just chilling on the floor, like,
twiddling their thumbs
and talking about their diet and their, macros and whatever they're talking about, their biceps. I don't know, but they're not doing that, right? They have a specific task. So ideally at 4 p.m., ideally an ideal business, you have one person running consult, one person running session, or 2 people running session, depending on your volume.
Size of your facility, yeah.
Right? And you have one person making calls at that time, because that is like golden hour for gyms is 4 p.m., right? Golden. Because people are getting out of work. They're starting to get out of work 4:30, maybe 5, right? And then they're ready to start making some changes and this kind of stuff. That's what we found to be the best time. And that's what Harvard Business Review also says, right? Which is something that I subscribe to, right? But Harvard Business Review also says the peak time to call people is 4 o'clock. And the research shows the best day to do it is Thursday, which is kind of weird. But when you think about it, Mondays are like, eh. Now, I'm not telling you
Everybody's running around, busy.
I'm not telling you not to call your leads on Monday. Don't get me wrong. Call your leads on Monday. Okay. But
Call them
your
every
leads,
day.
Call them every day. Call them Monday. Call them Friday. Call them Saturday, right? Call them. But if you're looking for the peak times to call, Thursday at 4 p.m. is the best peak time to call and actually get people to book, right? So on Thursday at 4 p.m., if you are not calling leads, you should be. If you're not calling leads at 4 p.m. on Thursday, you should be doing that. Book that in your calendar at the minimum, right? But find an hour every day that you can book in to call. If you can't hit these ideal times, that's okay. You want to make that appointment. Just
get into the habit of actually doing it, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you, is just more about getting that habit in to actually do this. Remember, the goal of what we do here at Fitness Profit Multiplier is exactly that. Multiply your profits. And the way you multiply your profits is getting more out of everything that you're doing. So remember, if you're calling your lead once, and now listening to this, you call them even 4 times, you're 4xing the chances of getting that person as a client. So you're 4xing your results just by doing that. So now if we get you into the habit of calling every day, maybe it is at 4 o'clock. Maybe you're lucky and you do it every day at 4 o'clock. You have the staff in place or whatever. If you start doing that every day and you just build that habit, chances are you're going to be more profitable and you're going to end up taking more money home, which is the goal for everyone here listening to this. I know you want to take home more money. I know how hard it is. The bills are piling up, payroll's coming around again. You got to make that money. And the only way to do that is to pick up the phone. I feel like the Wolf of Wall Street, but pick up the phone and start dialing. That's all it comes down to. Now you're probably thinking, okay, what do I say? And we work with gyms all over the country and we help them fine tune that script, because what you say is very, very important. And we'll do a whole other episode on what you actually say. But the first sentence that comes out of your mouth when you pick up the phone is the most important, because if you sound like a schmuck on the phone, hey, this is Anthony calling from AB. Who? I'm busy right now. I'm at work. Click. Then all that effort of actually picking up the phone and the anxiety you had of actually dialing was a waste. So this is why it's so important to figure out what you're going to say and the cadence you say it. But a basic framework, like script, that you could say when it actually comes down to this specific thing is, hey, this is Jimmy from, XYZ gym. I'm just calling because I see you opted in on our website for XXX. Are you free right now? Please give me a second to just explain. It depends on the wording, again, what the offer is. There's a lot that goes into that, but basic framework is, hey, this is Jimmy from XYZ. I see you opted in on our website. Please talk to me a little bit about your goals. What are you looking to achieve? Basic framework right there. And I said the wrong thing. Don't ask for permission to keep going on the phone, because then they'll be like, no, I'm busy. So just say something like that. Very simple framework that you can follow, but that's the most important thing. And I think we beat this up, man. That's how you guys need to properly work your leads.
Remember, if your gym,
pick up the phone.
If your gym is not profitable and you want a profitable gym, right? Pick up the phone and start dialing.
That we're gonna chant that into. That's gonna be like, we should make that the intro song. Pick up the phone and start dialing. All right, guys. If you're interested in finding out more about what we do, all the automations, the sales scripts, the works, just click that link below and you'll find our email address in there. Actually, just send us an email, put your info in the subject line, and we'll get back to you. All right, guys. Anthony and Jimmy, FPM, and we're out.